welcome back Mr. Vincent M. Ward.
What up, what up?
Oscar on The Walking Dead. He's been on True Blood, NCIS, Army, Wise, Body, The Starlight, Two Brothers, and a whole bunch of other shows on his own. You can look up yourself. He's the flight of Dayton, Ohio. And making his StocktonCon debut, he played Axel on The Walking Dead. Never holds in the Fill Unstoppable. Hal, the dime manager in Waitress. He's been in The Lone Ranger, Domino's, the Rejects, Lew Temple, Mr. Lew Temple. Hi. So before we get started, the first thing we have to do, very first thing, Vincent.
Yes.
Last year, when you came here, you were decked out in a certain attire for a certain reason. Now that you're back, you're in the backyard of the Golden State Warriors. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
Yes, the Cavs are the champs, baby. Last year I lost a bet, but I kept my word. I had to wear Golden State stuff last year.
Wow.
I had to wear it all. And then about a month and a half ago, I was over in San Francisco. Maybe no, probably 3 months ago. 2 months ago. And the Cavs were down 3-1. And I had my Cavs hat on, and all the Golden State fans just gave me such a hard time in San Francisco. And look who's smiling now, baby.
And
Who's smiling now.
And not to be shortchanged, Lew. Anybody want to guess what Lew's sport was? Anybody know what Lew's sport was?
I can tell you that I'm seeing a piece of equipment right there, which is making me.
Baseball, exactly.
Yeah.
So he was the 1982 most valuable player for the Rollins College baseball team. Worked played the minors. Has some good stories to tell that you can talk about. He was also the assistant director of minor league operations and scouting for the Houston Astros. So the question is, how did you go from baseball executive to actor?
That's a good question. That's an age-old answer too. I followed a girl into an acting class. I did. True story. To get a little date, and I saw what they were doing on that stage in front of me, and I forgot all about her. And I said, I believe I can do that. I wish I could not do it at all, but I did go to school to learn how to do it. So the moral of that story is, something strikes your interest or tickles your fancy, follow up. You never know, and most times it just takes, life's about passion. So if you have a passion for something, expand on it.
So you started in Texas. Were you in Texas?
Yeah, that was Houston, Texas, and it was just community. It was a community theater. It was just a girl that wanted to become a movie star, I guess, and it happened to me. But yeah, I just saw her walking down the street, the building that she walked into, and I guess that's destiny. But not without a lot of work. It does require. But I think when you love something, anyone here would attest to that. If you find something that grabs hold of you, you want to pursue it. You want to figure out, how do I do it? How do I do it? Baseball, I will say, is my first love, though. First and foremost passion. I still love it. I like the Giants quite a bit. I worry about their offense. I root for guys that I played with, and right now those guys are all in Seattle. They're the coaching staff of the Mariners, so I'm pulling for the Mariners for that wild card thing. And I root for the Giants over the Dodgers, even though I live in Los Angeles. And I'm a Southern boy, so I like the Braves as well. So, grew up with Will Clark. Will and I. He doesn't like me because we dated the same girl. Oftentimes about girls over here.
Go Reds, go Indians.
Yeah. Well, the Indians are on tap right now.
So how did you, in your career though, what happened to make you?
Oh, that's another good story. A really great story. As you know, I did pursue learning learning to act and acting at Brooklyn College in New York, but I was also employed at the time. You know, I wasn't one of these guys that prescribed to being a starving artist. So I had a real job with an expense account, a company car, and travel. And I was working with the Houston Astros. And one day, the stadium operations director said, "I think you should come and meet this guy, and he needs some help." And I had no idea. And I went down. It was Charlie Sheen, who was doing a movie in Houston, but he needed to prepare for his next movie, which was Major League 2. And Major League 2 was going to be shot. And so Charlie and I would work out every night in the Houston Astrodome, which he would rent. He would just write a check and rent it. And he had a birthday party, his 30th birthday party, and some gentlemen came in to be part of that party who were Disney executives and were making a movie called Angels in the Outfield, right up here, right in Alameda. That's where we did most of that. And they said, "You're a cool dude, you should come do our movie, don't carry Charlie's bags in his movie." So I went and did Angels in the Outfield. Well, still employed, took a sabbatical. It was in the off season because we did baseball stadiums. My baseball responsibilities were able to be put on hold. But at the time, the team I worked for, the Houston Astros, was sold to a new owner, which put a new man in charge as the general manager, a guy named Bob Watson, who was a very famous baseball player and a great dude, a coach for the Oakland Athletics for many years with the Bash Brothers. And he called me and he said, "Hey, Lew Temple, don't rush home. Enjoy your movie, because we're doing okay without you." And I said, "Oh, I know what that means." So I did rush home, and I confronted him. He said, "Man, dude, look, I'm not firing you, but I'm not going to rehire you, because I realize that you have this other thing tugging at your interests, your heart, this acting thing, and if you keep doing this job, which you know how these jobs are, they're lifers, you're never going to take this fly. So I'm basically firing you to kick you out of the nest." A baseball man, a baseball player, I owes the credit for my acting career. And immediately the San Diego Padres called and said, "Hey, we hear you're available. Why don't you come down to San Diego and work for us?" Which, those of you who've been to San Diego, anyone would say that's a great opportunity. But I heard Bob's voice in my ear echoing, "If you don't take a chance, you'll never know." So I took a chance, and here we are.
Sometimes the negative is really a positive for you. You need that negative to get you to where you really truly need to be or supposed to be in life.
Yeah.
With me, with General Motors and Champ Sports, I was fired, and I didn't even know why. I didn't even have a reason why. But if they wouldn't have fired me, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys today. So
Vincent, that's a good segue. Thank you for that.
I knew you were going to say that.
So I was getting ready for this last night. I was looking at your IMDb profile. You have on IMDb the comments, most recent comments. Here are the highlights of the 5 most recent comments on your profile. "So hot."
I wrote that.
"Great actor." "Oscar/Emmy, here he comes." "True talent." And the last one, this is in all caps. "Nicest and sexiest man ever."
I wrote that.
Thank you.
So, as an actor, you've come a long way. You've done many shows. Some 60 plus credits thereabouts. How has your career developed? And not just since The Walking Dead, but even since you started your career through The Walking Dead to where you are now.
Well, it's funny because I sort of started like Lew, but it wasn't a girl involved. It was me being depressed for getting fired from Champ Sports, and one day I just happened to go inside of this theater, and I had watched my very first play at, I was 29 years old, and I sat there in that little theater in Columbus, Ohio, and I said, "I can do that." And a couple of weeks later, they had auditions, and I went and auditioned, and I got a part. And this is a tough business. People don't realize it's not just about the audition. It's about being mentally strong too. Because sometimes we'll be sitting at the house like, "Oh my God, is this for me?" you start doubting yourself after a while, you know, but you have to have patience for myself. Being patient, having faith is very important for my life, for my career. So, you know, it's funny because a lot of people think, oh, you started on The Walking Dead. No. You did a lot of stuff before The Walking Dead. And I tell people all the time, I didn't even know what The Walking Dead was. I had no clue about the comic books. I didn't know anything about the show. But I just looked at it like it was another job. I just went in and tried to get a job. And it was like, well, you got a part of The Walking Dead. I said, what is it about? They said it's about zombies. I said, who watching TV about zombies? Come to find out, everybody was. So I didn't know what I was really a part of, but I'm grateful for being there. And I just think it's a stepping stone for me, because now, you know, all the years of praying and hoping and wishing, now I can finally take not only my life but my career to the next level, because I can handle the success that comes with it. 10 years ago, I probably messed it up, because you know sometimes people get to where they want to be and they mess it up with drugs and alcohol and women and you know whatever. So that's what I'm doing in my career, just being mentally, emotionally, spiritually strong.
Well, so if you could both talk about the experience of, you know, auditioning for The Walking Dead, what was that like? Did you know what you were getting into? I mean, obviously you said watching the movie. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, based on my horror pedigree, having done several of Rob Zombie's movies, one which is coming out in just a few weeks now. The graphic novel came across my desk of The Walking Dead, the comic, and I looked at it and thought it was amazing, but never would they be able to do a television series out of it, which was kind of the rumor. And then they brought me in to audition for the role of Merle, at which thankfully they hired Michael Rooker. And then shortly after they brought me in, look, we got this other character, Merle has a brother. We don't know his name and he doesn't have any lines. Just read the same stuff that you read Merle, but different. And thankfully they hired Rita's character to do Daryl. And so when Axel came around, they kind of knew who I was, and they were ready for me. This fits you. Although physically, Axel in the graphic novel, as you know, and myself are quite different. He's kind of a bigger, robust man, but likes to wear a towel. But so I was doing the movie The Lone Ranger at the time, and we weren't done with that, and I was really enjoying it because I'm on a horse every day, and it was great for those of you that love horses, and I do. And so this job came to me for The Walking Dead, and I kind of turned it down because I thought, I'm not done with this movie, it's going to be a conflict. I'm working in New Mexico, I'm going to shoot in Georgia, a lot of travel, plus I got this cool mustache they're not going to let me have on The Walking Dead. So, nah, I'm not doing it. You know how you do those things, knowing that, I hope they don't, I hope they beg me to do it. Because if they say, okay, then I just screw myself. So I turned it down a couple times, but then knowing that I really did want to do the job, and they said, you can keep your mustache. And the rest is history. So it was interesting, and Vincent's got a great story too, because about how we got on the show and didn't know anything about the show.
I remember this one scene. It's when Chandler and Lori came out of the prison after shooting the mom, and that was our first time seeing Carl. And me and Lew was looking at each other like, who is this little boy with this gun? Because we had never seen him. That was like the third or fourth episode.
Yeah, we'd been there a long time, and we knew. It just was bizarre. It was. You remember that scene, and they come out, and
Ricky's all.
Mandy's got the baby, Judith, and everybody's crying. And, we're like, what the much attention. You know, now they have no-fly zones. I guess we did then too, but even still, all the trailers have code names. So there's no Andrew Lincoln on the trailer. There's no Andrew Lincoln or Norman Reedus on your call sheets. Your call sheets are what tell you what the work is each day. And these names were there, these nicknames, and I was like, oh no, I took a job on a webisode. This isn't The Walking Dead at all. Until finally I see these guys show up from their trailers, and I'm like, oh, I think I'm in the right place. But and even the auditions.
Yeah, everything is so secretive.
They weren't even real sides.
Nope.
I mean, I auditioned for Axel. They asked me to put it on tape, and they wanted me and T-Dog to have a conversation about our mustaches. And what type of wax do you use on yours, and how do you clean it? And it's crazy, which has never been in the show, and never was going to be in the show. That's how secretive they are. And then yours is hilarious.
Yeah, when we first got there, they gave us the wrong script. We were looking for our names and everything. It was a fake script. So, I mean, after a while, after being there a couple of months, because we was the last two, we were like, look, we need our script like ahead of time. If we would get the script like 2 days before it's time to
trust
shoot.
us. They thought we were going to sell it or something. I didn't sell my scripts till way later. There were some.
And I remember the one time we went to the dinner with T-Dog dinner. This is right after.
Well, Lori too.
Lori and T-Dog.
So they have you've heard about these death dinners, and they celebrate the life and commiserate the passing of a character on the show. And we had just shown up, and we're the two new guys, and all of a sudden it's like we're replacing these two loved, because they were very castmates. They were very loved. Whether you liked her or not, Lori's character, Sarah Wayne Callie, is the founding mother of the show. She set the tone. Her, Andrew Lincoln, John Bernthal made the show then what it is today. They were the root of the family, and still are. So as you come into the show now as a player like Negan, you have to have a conference with them, and they pass the baton along about, here's how we do. And that's never changed, and that's why the show has success.
And it was so odd being there.
We didn't want to go. We said no.
Yeah.
Heck no. And
I remember sitting there having a conversation with Rick. Now, the whole time we've been on the set, he was always Rick. Andy was always Rick. And so I had a glass of wine, I took a sip, and he's sitting right next to me, I'm having a conversation, all of a sudden I hear this British accent. So I'm looking at him, and I'm looking at my wine, and I'm looking back at him, and I just said, hey man, why are you talking like that? He said, you think about this British? I'm like, what? The whole time you've been Rick, and all of a sudden you was this British dude. I said, turn back into Rick. But I had no clue that he was British. They do a great job with the accent.
So did you guys hit it off immediately? Like, kind of, because the four prisoners who were in the concert box, did you guys kind of come together and like, okay, we're in our own little pack, and they're their own little pack, or was there any camaraderie there, or how did that go?
yeah, I think as a group of the five originally, they had us. It was brilliant how they did it, because we were so confused as to what was going on. Each of us had auditioned for like a different character than we were brought in to do. Each of us had built different material and character traits than what were being asked of us. So when we showed up, we were just confused, not unlike you would be during a zombie apocalypse. So it was rather perfect. And then I think because of our confusion, we immediately needed to support each other, of the five of us. We all had to say, look, no, you're not Mouse, I'm Mouse. Or are you, or what?
Yeah, because my character originally was Mouse. And then once we got there to the set, it was Oscar. And then the guy who was playing Big Time, he was like, no, I'm playing Oscar. So I'm looking like, what the hell is going on with this show? First you tell me it's about zombies, now nothing is going right, so I was sort of like weirded out. I thought I was getting punked or something. But yeah, I mean, it's very serious.
And so that did lend itself to us kind of communing. And even though Thomas, you didn't care for him, rightfully so, he's not the best guy around, Tomas. He's a good dude, Nick Gomez, and we connected with what he needed to be able to do, and we all recognized that. And, you know, Theo that did Big Tiny and Marquise that did Andrew, they all fit in. And so I think your question is about Oscar and Axel, and knowing somewhere we knew we were going to be the two lone survivors, the two last men standing. I think that kind of bonded us, that we recognized. We spent a lot of time out there in the hot sun together, as it was, so yeah, we better liked each other.
Oh yeah, it was hot, extremely hot.
All right, so we can open it up to questions now. If you'd like to ask a question, come on up to the microphone. Or everybody come at once.
Or just yell it out.
Or you can
I can
yell
hear you.
Anybody? Because I still got more questions I can ask. Okay.
Yay!
My question is for you, Lew.
Yeah.
I read online from different sources that your original storyline with Axel was you're a serial killer and you were going to kill Beth.
That's true. There's nothing false about that. Again, as I said, we were brought in under strange, confusing storylines. You know, they wanted Axel to be lighthearted and to bring a little fun to the show, and I think the Oscar and Axel show did bring some levity to the show, which was important. They wanted to be able to smile now and again, so we were doing that, but always reserving the fangs, I always call it, that, you know, there was a storyline that had been talked about taking Beth hostage out into the woods and doing a mercy killing to stop the apocalypse under the context of Christian belief. And we entirely were considering that. So what you saw on the label may not have been what was really there. That's why I never undid my jumpsuit, and I was always buttoned up, because when that was peeled off, you would see a lot of tats and sort of Aryan ideals. And so yeah, that was there. Just couldn't get to it because the governor showed up and he needed to draw first blood. And so I'm happy though that Axel was as likable as he was. I think the other guy, the creeper, who the Axel in the comic books isn't as fun.
Thank you.
And he could pick out lesbians.
You said you had done some preparations for the whole before you got in there, and you just basically had to throw all that out. Was there
Quick.
any key differences of the things that you prepared?
I think that just turn that frown upside down. I think the intensity of the Axel that I brought in was not what was requested. The request then quickly, and so they went through their brilliance. They don't understand, well, you've programmed us to build something, and now you're asking us, you know, we're master builders, now you're asking us to unbuild this thing and quickly transition. And they're just, and when I say they, I'm talking about producers and writers, they just think you can decompress that one thing, which for me was a real intensity, Henry Rollins, you know, push, and to remove that to a entirely bewildered, what has happened to the world, and it is a huge transition and really difficult and frustrating, but you have a job to do, and the main thing is to support the show for you. And I always talk about this, and I'm sorry to talk about it. You know, you're just as responsible for what goes on in the show as we are, because somehow there's this symbiotic relationship, and you send out what needs to happen, whether you believe that or not. And we show up every week because you show up every week, and you're responsible. You've got to pick up your end of the log and carry it, which you do, and so do we. So I just think that that's why the show is as popular as it is.
My character was just like my audition, so. And my character is just like me in real life, so the difference is he's in jail, I'm free.
That's hilarious.
So what's it like to work with Sherry and Rob? Can you do a plug for what's coming up?
Yeah. I love these two because they have each other's back. This is Rob Zombie and his wife Sherry Moon Zombie, who I've done several films with and have one coming out, 31, which comes out on the 1st of September through Fathom Events in what is it? Who's near? What's
That's
the
Monterey.
No, Montecito, there's a theater here. Thank you. That's where it will be nearest, and it's one night only for Rob. He's got a big event which he'll screen the movie. He will Q&A, making of, behind the scenes, DVD extra, and then 2 of his new music videos. That's an event that's occurring all over the States that particular night. Then the movie opens September 16th if you don't get a special ticket otherwise. Crazy, aggressive, violent mayhem, unreasonable violence. Yeah. So there's that, and it's ideal. And I play Psycho Head, which is the worst thing I've ever done on screen, morally, physically, and I don't wear any clothes. Fashionably. Also, so these two people, Rob Zombie and Sherry Moon Zombie, got each other's back. Like, you know, they just support each other. He puts her in every movie as the lead. She only does his movies, and I love that. For right or wrong, anyone can say, well, she's not that good or whatever. It doesn't matter. She's great. She's really good, and he's going to use her. And so for Rob, it's great, but it's work. And it's entirely intense work. If any of you have been to one of his concerts, you'll recognize that he is full on and doesn't shortchange anything, and that's how his work day is. So you better bring it. And if you don't bring it, he will remove you from the system. And he has no problems doing that, and he doesn't take it personally. So he knows what he wants, and he wants what he knows, and there's not really any in between. And anything that it requires to get that in the scene, if you need loudspeakers blasting music from 9 Inch Nails, he's fine with that. He'll make it happen. You need blue M&Ms. But you better deliver. That's his whole tip. So enjoy 31 for those of you who are brave enough to see it.
It wasn't the blue M&Ms. We just kind of keep going and going.
I'm sorry. I'm enthusiastic.
So you just finished recently, I think, Death House?
Yeah, Death House. There's so many different horror legends in this movie. I don't know what it's about.
Just a name drop. Adrian Barbeau, who's here at StocktonCon, Tony Todd, Pete Wallace, Vernon Wells, Kane Hunter. That's just like the first 5 big names. So big role, small role, medium role, what do you do?
Well,
No small roles.
yeah. Yes. It was a role. And it was a role that they asked me to do. So I was honored. You know, a lot of times, you don't really just get somebody calling you and asking you to be in a movie. But especially with all those legendary horror people, it was made me feel good. So, yeah.
I just want to know, how do you know when they're going to kill you?
Okay, so they both got stories about this. You're doing a great job. That's like,
Well, a lot of stories. Sitting in makeup one day, I see a script. Like, oh, let me see. Open the script. First thing you do, you're looking for your name. I get to the very last page. Oscar guys! What? Nobody had told me anything. So like 2 minutes later, Andrew Lincoln walks in. He comes in. Oh, Vince, I heard you're not going to be with us anymore. I miss you. I'm not good with accents and all those things. So I was like, yeah, I just found out right now. He said, nobody told you anything. I was like, No, nobody told me anything. Before I knew it, I had all these producers and directors come in and apologize. And so, most of the time, somebody's supposed to tell you when you're about to die. But unfortunately, I'm ready. I'm still mad.
Yeah, that changed the policy, man. They made sure after that happened that would never happen again. I don't think it has. That was like big, bad protocol behavior at that point. I was notified 3 weeks in advance, and I got a call. You know, and I thought I was going to be talking about development of Axel, and Scott Gibb was like, "Hey Lew," and I'm like, "Yeah, man, let's keep that conversation we had the other night about Axel. What I was thinking is, he's like, hey Lew, I got some bad news. You're going to take a bullet to the head." He didn't actually say that, because he didn't know where, but he just said, "Look, we painted ourselves into the corner that we can't figure out how to get out, thinking that you can help us." As if hey, I got this great idea, would you mind helping? So the thing that you do, typically, he didn't have a chance to do, because it was already, once it's on the page, you can change it, right?
But I knew something was up, because I told him when I was going to Woodbury, I said, "Lew, they got me going to Woodbury." He said, I said, "I don't think I'm coming back." He said, "What did you hear?" I said, "I didn't hear nothing. I just had a bad feeling about this."
I said, "Don't go to Woodbury, dude. Don't go. Just don't go. Don't look under the bed.
I should have listened.
And so, you do this denial dance. You know, hey, what about that Allen guy that just showed up? He's a real asshole. Let's go to him. And they're like, no one's invested in his character. The governor has to draw blood or he'll be impotent. We gotta get, someone's gone. But look, we haven't decided yet. And by the way, your name is just on the list, but also, and there are like 5 regulars that I can't say or won't say. So, it was up in the air for a long time. And then when it was finally me, you know, they tell you, and then they tell the cast a few days later, and everyone is processing, and those people would come up to me and say, "Man, I'm sorry you're leaving. It sucks." And I'm like, "You have no idea how close it was to you. You just don't even know. Don't play high and mighty." So then it gets back to, like, you've got a job to do. Now you can put away all those sad, hurt feelings, and you got the swimming pool started, you can't finish it. But you got to do a great job. So then the only thing that's important is you want to honor the death of your character, someone like Axel, and do it right. And so they weren't sure how it was going to be done. They said, "Would you come to the writer's room? We could kind of build this." I said, "No, I'm not going to, because you're doing a good job. I don't want to mess it up." But I do remember seeing the Zapruder tapes of Kennedy's assassination. I don't think I pronounced, is it Zapruder or Zapruder? Close, thank you. And I remember how shocking that was, that headshot, and I wanted it to be a gut punch. And I didn't want any of you, I didn't want to indicate it was coming in the gunfight, you know, just like, and I think I was really proud of how we were able to pull it off.
Yeah, piggybacking off what he said about being there for your fellow actors and for you guys, I got killed on a Tuesday, and I had to come back to work Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I'm sitting there like, "You shot me Tuesday, just let me go home." But you know, they didn't want to let the fans down or whatnot, so you still got to give 100% knowing that you're not coming back.
But the key is Oscar's never been seen at bed.
No.
So is Oscar still wandering around that area?
You bring it back.
I don't know what Oscar is doing. I just know he's laying on the ground. So, we'll see. That's William Shatner.
That's a good idea.
I think you need to hear that question.
Yes, welcome. Lucille.
First question is for Mr. Temple. Is there a point if you never got to finish your story before the government stopped you?
Yes. My brother, he had a real money problem. He would let me in. One time he told me to meet him down at the docks. We were going to go fishing. We like to fish. And I bought a bunch of beer and bait. And that son of a bitch showed up with my ex-wife. That was going to be the end of the story. The point of it, though, everything has a point, was that we were going to build a brother storyline where I was going to be able to sympathize with Daryl's character about brothers, because we were building to the end of Merle, right? We were starting to and you kind of noticed the Merle-Daryl brothership was starting to get built. So we were thinking about doing that, thinking about taking Beth and ruining her, and then the governor just made a mess of it. Ended it, finished. So I liked that it was in the middle of the story, and the whole point of that was to not indicate, here comes a bullet, obviously. Good shot, right? A good reveal.
Just take a question for both of you. When you were both attached, then being the Walking Dead, did either of you go to the comics?
I didn't know that. I had no clue. So no.
I entirely did know the Axel character, and respected the character because I know that he was liked in by the people that really read the graphic novels, and I liked him too. I just wanted to make it different. I think the graphic novels are great, but also they're two-dimensional, and at the very least, or three, sometimes four dimensions, and just there's more that goes into it in living form than on the page. So I just wanted to make it different.
I remember going to the premiere at Universal, and nobody knew who we were. And I remember a couple of people was like, maybe he's playing Tyrese. I'm like, who's Tyrese? And I asked this one guy, he's like, well, he's huge in the comic. But I was like, well, that's not.
So do you guys have any theories that alone has to do with the black or any premiere? What are your thoughts?
I haven't even watched the show, so. I did see everybody on their knees, so I have no clue at all. And if he did. It takes me silly.
Well, a couple things. One, I mean, we enjoy the show like you do now. We try, although we're out and amongst with the current cast doing things like this, and we try to get them not to talk about it. He doesn't care, so it's my show. I'll watch it over there. They filmed all of them. They're all dead. He's hit every one of them. Which one they use is up to them, right? I mean, so I think theories are exactly what they're for. You know, my granddad used to say there's a behind for every seat out here, and I think there's theory for all those. But I was on the Glenn side of things, thinking about that because I feel like we've grieved for Glenn already, and we're just that close. But now I'm sort of getting this prevailing Abraham wind shifting, and I'm wondering if we might go there. It doesn't feel big enough, but yeah, you know, so that I'm sort of in that mindset. I feel like ultimately, if I'm part of the decision-making team, they got to make a decision between Daryl and Michonne, because the two have the same characters. You know, they have the same storylines, and so they've got to disconnect one of them so they can continue with others, like cutting cancer out. So one of them's got to go, but I don't think they'll play that way.
But
But
I will say this: when I say I don't watch the show, it's not because I'm not on it anymore. It's because I've never watched it before. So that's the only reason. I ain't hating on it or anything like that. It's just I didn't watch it before.
Well, we're going to have to wrap this up, but before we do, I just want to ask you, what do you have coming up in the immediate future where people find out more about what you're doing and where they can see you?
Well, I have a nice Perfecto commercial that's running right now that people seem to love. Again, the little dog. Death House. Like 3 or 4 movies coming out. Doing some writing along, and know, just trying to take care of these 8 grandkids. That's about it.
But you're on live, or is that new show,
Atlanta. Yeah. Watch out for Atlanta. It's called Atlanta. It comes out next month as well.
8 p.m. We talked about 31, obviously. Have another movie coming out in October called Shangri-La Suite, about 2 young kids that are on the pilgrimage to assassinate Elvis Presley in 1974, which is really great and interesting. And then in December, a movie called Kidnapped with Halle Berry, where I take her child and she wants it back. Yeah. And then you can see me on Longmire, which I reason to be this generation's Walker, Texas Ranger, which I also did. So I feel like I'll probably be joining Henry Winkler and Terry Bradshaw and pretty soon William Shatner and Better Late Than Never, which I'm not in now. So, but and doing some writing too. So I'm excited.
last question, using your expertise, who's going to win the World Series?
Cleveland Indians.
They could. They got, you know, Salazar's arm's good. You know, they bounce back. No, I like, you know, everyone's rooting for the Cubs, and I think they're pretty good. I think the Giants are always are in the mix because they're so experienced. So, and the Red Sox seem to be like a good. I still root for Detroit for some reason. I don't know.